Hello everyone and welcome to Extreme DX. I'm your host Bruce. Today we're going to look at a little bit of radio history. This is the very last RCA Globetrotter radio. Some radios had a history from the tube days when they made portable tube radios. They were large, they were heavy, and they were tube. And then when transistors came into vogue, they made future versions of them with transistors. And the Globetrotter series is such a series. It started around 1946 from what I can find, and those original models were tube radios, and there are also several highly prized transistor versions throughout the years. This was the very last in the series. After this, RCA sold out to the temptation to make AM/FM portables, and they bought the GE Super Radio design from GE and branded it as RCA. So this is the last AM only RCA Globetrotter radio. Between two parts units, I have one working, and this is it, although this needs a lot of cleanup. The compartment door slides down and off, exposing the battery compartment and another screw. There are two screws to remove the back cover. When we get our first look inside the case, you have to remember to slide the AC power cord through a hole in the back of the case. And don't forget to do that when you're reassembling the radio. As you can see, it has a very small main PC board, but it contains all of the essential functions of a first-rate tuned RF radio. You can see the gray RF coil right to the upper right of the tuning capacitor. You can see the red oscillator transformer, and you can see the IF. Now, the GE series of radios, super radios, had 4 tuned IF stages, and so does this one, and a little better. There's only 3 transformers, but that elongated transformer in the upper left contains a ceramic filter. So this contains a very advanced IF circuit for the time. You can also see the large ferrite bar antenna, which is the basis for a good receiver. The audio is distorted, so this radio desperately needs a recap. To remove the chassis, first start by removing the knobs. They pry up. It'll give you a good chance to squirt in some degreaser or pot cleaner. The next step in removing the chassis is to remove 2 screws along the bottom of the PC board. Here and here under this bent piece of metal which attaches to the screw. It serves as a way to hold all the wires that go across the radio. The next screw is here at the back of the PC board, but not on the PC board. And then there's another screw over here by this bent bracket. Now, every one of these radios has a bent bracket to facilitate aligning the slide controls on the front as they assembled the radio. The chassis is loose. It needs a little bit of finagling to get it out. You can turn it vertically, but there is something you can do to make your job a whole lot easier. You can remove the front panel by taking this screw and this other screw out. It's a little hard to see down there. It's by the end of the ferrite bar kind of near the screw that mounts the hand. There we are. The front panel assembly has come off. This will facilitate cleaning, and this thing needs a lot of cleaning. Now you can simply lift this chassis out and flip it over. This will facilitate recapping, although considering how dirty this radio is, I'm going to go ahead and disassemble the rest of the way so that I can clean it properly. The first step is to remove the ring washer supporting the earphone jack. Yeah, this is a pain for anybody that's done it before, but I'm sure everybody has their own fixturing or tooling that they use to get rid of this. Next, we need to remove this screw and washer that are the line cord restrainers. A plastic washer under the metal washer. Don't lose it. Next, we need to unsolder the positive battery wire. It goes over here to this hole on the PC board. We also need to unsolder the negative wire, and it goes over to the power switch. Either unsolder the speaker wires or take out the two clamps that hold the speaker in. One of them here is kind of hidden under this bundle of wires. There we go. I'm going to do both. And finally, there are two nuts on the power transformer. Remove them. Once again, my trusty iFixit bit set to the rescue. iFixit doesn't sponsor me, but I'll give them a free plug because they make screwdrivers and bits that solve a lot of problems in working on these small electronics. And the chassis is now free. Free to recap the board, free to align, free to clean, whatever you want. The outer case is not completely disassembled. The captive screws for the power transformer are probably accessible if you take off the decorative grille on the front, but you're going to bend it if you try to do that, so I wouldn't recommend it. The battery terminals will slide out. I'd recommend taking this fiber spacer out, and then it's just a matter of using the same bit to take off the screws for the handle, the nuts for the handle. Handle is nut, lock washer, flat washer, then the cabinet, then the handle, and then two plastic flat washers, and then finally the decorative screw head. Those just slide out. Screw in the corner that serves absolutely no purpose, but I'm going to go ahead and remove it. But my decorative grill is already loose, but I know better than to try to get it the rest of the way off because it is going to bend. And this gave me the opportunity to find out, could I get those captive screws out if I really wanted? The answer is I cannot. Spacer. What exactly does it do? I really can't see that it does anything because it is not contacting anything on the back panel. So I would say you're probably safe in removing it. It's not keeping you from buzzing the plastic surface. To the sink with a lot of dirty plastic parts. Back from the sink. And air drying. Now it's time for recapping. Being on one of these recapping jobs, it's always a good idea to check the radio after changing each capacitor. That way you can check your work. Also remember to check the polarity when you remove each capacitor. It's not strictly necessary to remove the old adhesive. The new capacitor is going to be much smaller anyway, so it won't be as affected by vibration and shock. How good is the Globetrotter Series? Well, I'm going to go through the stations even though I need to replace a transistor or two in the output amplifier stage. It's a little distorted.
Now offers stacks, which means you can pick the same player up to 3 times.
Just as he is right. And John Gressington and
News that matters to you and your family.
News Talk 820 WPAP.
And now,
Okay, moved indoors because both the phone and the radio overheated in 94-degree heat.
this has to be right. And the fact of the matter is,
Dr. Cole is not a...
Okay, I'm going to terminate the test there because clearly the bad transistor in the audio keeps overheating and shutting down the radio even inside. Okay, some final thoughts on this radio before I go back and actually fix the transistors. It's a respectable DX radio on its own. It certainly is the last and possibly one of the best members of the Globetrotter family. I think I figured out the reason for this strange orange-green scale. I think RCA was planning at this time to make this into an AM/FM radio. And I think that too because this strange extra screw on the bottom would have made a very good place to put an FM antenna, but it of course would have had to be sticking out right here where the logo is. So I think maybe there were some mechanical reasons too why they decided not to go on with this design as an AM/FM radio. It certainly is difficult to tune with the smaller dial, and that's another reason why I'm terminating the test. I had to have a Codison right next to it so I could figure out what the audio was I was listening to. I also need to give thanks to my mother, who bought me one of these right before we made an international trip to Egypt. And it certainly came in useful trying to DX European stations from along the Nile, where in the daytime there is one low power station. You would sail for an hour and then you'd lose that one, and then you'd be in the next low power station. It seemed like every little village had its own fairly low powered AM station. At night, of course, the dial came alive. Unfortunately, when we stayed in Egypt, I made a mistake. I saw the two-prong plug exactly looking like an American two-prong plug, and I plugged the radio into it. And guess what? It was not 115 or 120. It was 220. And I fried the transformer on the AC side, so after that it only worked on DC. But, my mother was willing to buy me a top-notch AM DX radio before our trip, and for that I appreciate it. Thank you, Mother.